I'm going to start with cotton because cotton is where I've spent my time. It's the one I know the most about, and it's the most interesting one as well. Here's the sort of stuff we've been doing. In 2008, Ken Smith and Company found a field in Lee County known to be infested with glyphosate-resistant Palmer amaranth. They planted Roundup-ready cotton there, and they came up with about 9 different ways to try to control weeds in that field. And I calculated the cost for those 9 treatments, and they took measurements on the percent control that they got. The cheapest one you see up there is number 9, and that's strictly Roundup. I think it was 4 shots of Roundup. I've got included in that cost the material plus application. And it got 93% control, and I thought that was pretty good, but Dr. Smith says, no, we can't live with 93% control. The ones in red are the only ones really that are of importance. If we move on up to the next one, you see we got 98% control, but it cost us about $35 an acre to get there. And that year, in that field, to get all the way to 100% control, we had to go all the way up to $113 an acre. We repeated that work in 2009, still in Lee County, but I believe it was a different field this time. And I know we had additional treatments that we tried. Results a little bit different. You see there, treatment number 17, still for that $60 an acre cost, only gave 65% control. And again, I believe that was nothing but Roundup. But we did have one treatment that got us all the way to 98% control for just about $8 or $9 more. And that year we were able to get 100% control for $82.30, so just an additional $22, $23. And that's going to be one of the take-home points I want to leave with you today, is that in Roundup-ready cotton, we're probably looking at about an extra $30 to $35 an acre to control Palmer amaranth that's resistant to glyphosate. While we were there, they also set up planted some Liberty Link cotton and ran about 17 different recipes on it. You see there the top one in red for about $58, and I believe that one was nothing but Ignite. Got 78% control in 2008. Come on down one, and we've got a treatment there for $61 that was in both years. Got about 86 to 88% control in both years. But going on down for $67, then we were able to get 100% control. So in the Liberty Link cotton, just an extra, $10 maybe. To get 100% control. I'm going to spend the rest of my time, though, talking about the Roundup-ready cotton varieties, because in Arkansas, that's still a predominantly planted cotton variety. You kind of got 2 options. If you don't have a problem today, you can go into what we've been calling the preventive mode, where you use some extra herbicides to try to keep from having a problem. And I estimate that that'll cost you about $15 an acre because it includes a pre-plant application and then one application at lay-by. And in cotton, you're going to have to do that with a hooded directed sprayer. Otherwise, when you do develop a problem, like I said, it's going to be about an extra $35 per acre to grow Roundup-ready cotton. And it's going to require 2 post-directed applications. And then anything that escapes is likely Roundup resistant and will have to be handled with either cultivation or maybe hand hoeing. What I've been talking about so far is kind of some per acre numbers. There are some issues from a whole farm perspective, and that is that either to prevent it or to control it once you get it, it's going to require these post-directed hooded spray applications. You know as well as I do that a high-clearance sprayer will cover about 90 acres in an hour, and a hooded directed sprayer only cover about 25 acres in an hour. So we're working on trying to assess the impact that may have on the number of acres you can plant, but we're not there yet. But certainly, when June comes around and it's time to make these hooded directed sprayers, you're going to have to pull some people off of some activities to be able to make these cotton herbicide applications. We've also talked about conservation tillage here today, and the issues I'll just reiterate. We can control glyphosate-resistant pigweed in both cotton and soybeans, and we can do it without tillage. We can do it by including residual herbicides at pre-emergence and in season and at lay-by. But if we have escapes, then we're down to just cultivation and hand hoeing, and that's going in the wrong direction when it comes to conservation tillage. So besides just increased cost, trying to grow these crops, Roundup Ready cotton especially, in the face of glyphosate-resistant pigweed, it's going to require increased effort, and it's going to increase the risk of growing the crop. The pre-emergence application, for example, means you either got to spray behind the press wheel, which of course requires hauling water with you and filling spray tanks during the planting operation, or making an extra trip behind the planter with a high-clearance sprayer. And I followed a couple of farms in 2010 that did it with the high-clearance sprayer, and even at that, they told the planters, roll on, we can cover 90 acres in an hour and we'll catch up with you before the crop emerges. But, complications set in, whether it's windy weather or machinery or personnel issues, and I'm not sure that every acre actually got its pre-emergence application. Hooded sprayers, then, they're slow and they're precise and just requires extra effort. And then we've already talked about the fact that these residuals may not receive timely rainfall for activation. We saw some numbers that on average about 85% of the time you'll get sufficient rain, and then we heard that sometimes you can get too much rain. So now you may have acres that the pre-emergence is not working, has not been activated correctly. And then back to the problem of escapes. Let me turn your attention now to soybeans. I got this slide from Dr. Bob Stark. He's an ag economist there at Monticello with us. And what this slide presents is the cost of production, as we estimate it, for 5 different ways to produce soybeans. And these are recent numbers. Dr. Stark presented these same numbers back in August. Of course, the first one here is your traditional Roundup Ready system, but that one won't work if you've got glyphosate-resistant pigweed, because there's no residual chemistry in that budget for $304 an acre. So the second one here is a budget that would work to control glyphosate-resistant pigweed, and you see it's about $13 to $15 an acre higher. The next one's conventional. Conventional is priced right in there with the traditional Roundup Readies, and of course it would work. And then the last two are both Liberty Link systems. And again, as has been said earlier today, we don't rely just on the Ignite. That budget contains some residual chemistries that pre-emerge, either with one herbicide or maybe with a tank mix. And you see there the costs are pretty much, they're very similar for most of those soybean production alternatives. So in soybeans, they do require some kind of pre-plant herbicide application, and which we accounted for in that last budget you just saw, and may even require an in-season residual if that pre-plant doesn't hold. And so we've estimated that'll be about $15 an acre cost there on Roundup Ready beans. The Liberty Link beans, of course, should also receive a residual herbicide application. The last thing I wanted to just touch on then was this thing that Jason had just talked about on crop rotations. Let me explain what I've got here. This is a bar chart that comes right out of an Excel spreadsheet that Scott Stiles constructed a few years ago. And Scott's an ag economist with us, housed up at Jonesboro. And what we're trying to show here is returns above variable cost for your various crops. And so what this was meant to do was help you make planting decisions for the coming year. Now, before you get too excited about my numbers, let me just say there's a lot of numbers that go into this, and there's an assumption behind each number. This is corn right here, followed by grain, sorghum, and then wheat. These three are all soybean, one conventional, one Liberty Link, one Roundup Ready. These three are all rice, one conventional, one hybrid, and one Clearfield hybrid. And the last one over there is cotton. The numbers in here that I feel the best about are the costs that we got in there. Next, I feel okay about the yields that we've used. I know they're conservative, but you get better yields than what I've been assuming here, but we have to do it that way. The prices that I've used in here, I took right off of the Chicago Board of Trade yesterday, and so I haven't made any adjustments for basis, and we know there's going to be a basis, and for that reason, the rice price especially is probably about $1 too high. The reason I put this together, though, is if pigweeds have run you out of cotton and you're going to have to move into corn, using my numbers, you're going to leave about $50 on the table doing that. The other thing is that if you want to grow something other than soybeans to control weeds, grain sorghum might be a pretty even match, or rice, might be just as economical. And to my numbers, they look quite a bit more economical. This is such a moving target, though. I may be looking at this wrong. Maybe what a producer ought to do is just decide on a rotation for weed control and for other agronomic reasons, and I would think year in and year out you might it may all come out in the wash. I can't help but thinking about 2010 when we thought rice was going to be such a money maker and cotton such a dog, and then we got to the end of the season and it didn't turn out to be that way. Also, if you're interested in having the Excel spreadsheet so you can play with the numbers on your own farm, get with Scott Stiles. I think he would be happy to share it with you. Or if you need to get with me, I'll help you get with Scott. In summary then, controlling glyphosate-resistant pigweed in cotton and soybeans is going to increase our production cost. We think that on Roundup Ready cotton, you're looking at probably $35 an acre. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is the Cotton Performance Plus program that's available. The advertisements say you can get up to $20 an acre. I went back and looked at our budgets, the weed control programs we used in those first slides I showed you, and we would have been entitled to about $12 off. So I could have taken $12 off of that $35 to get it down to around $23. And I come up with about $15 per acre on Roundup Ready soybeans that you're going to have to spend that maybe we haven't spent in the past. It is going to require increased effort, and it's going to add risk to the operation. And crop rotations are another good alternative I encourage you to look at. I am told, though, that there's certain chemistries you need to use in those crops, just like Jason was talking about, to make sure you accomplish what you set out to accomplish.